Hey guys, welcome back to the channel, and it's a little bit early, still got my coffee. We're going to talk about this the well pump that we just installed, but before I get to that, I kind of want to talk about the water situation and why we're doing this. So if you want to see how the well pump is, just hang around for just a minute. If you're just here for kind of updates on news and stuff like that, then it'll be, we'll do that here right now at the beginning. So we talked about the water situation in Singapore the other day, where they're talking about a brewing company trying to make it out of trying to make their brew, their beer or whatever liquor it is. They're trying to make it out of sewage water, trying to purify sewage water. We talked about some other things on the live chat as far as trying to different municipalities trying to use sewage water as potable water later on and figuring out the filtration process. And though that sounds gross, at the end of the day, you're just breaking it down at a chemical level back down to water and sending it out. So in reality, when it's done, it'll probably be perfectly safe. Safe as in, if you trust the government to provide you with what's safe. That's a different standard than what I use. So, anyway, so having safe water obviously is paramount to our success going forward, right? It's going to be paramount to the success of having any type of economic issue. It's going to be paramount to the success of farming operations, of homesteading operations, and it's simply just going to be a matter of your survival, because we all require water. And so we're seeing filtration issues pop up periodically across the board as power outages realize that these filtration organizations run on power, right? Run on the grid power. As power outages become a more regular occurrence, that could potentially affect our water supply. Now, a lot of these water companies are going to have backup systems, but the fact of the matter is that if there's substantial issues with the power supply, which everybody believes are coming, including our own government, then at that point in time, you may have some problems with water. And so then the question is what do we do and how do we get water? Down in Mobile right now, Mobile had a boil warning because of water contamination issues, and we see these pop up periodically across the country. So the first step, if you're living in a subdivision or whatever, is to get a filtration system, something like a Berkey water filter. We're really happy with our Berkey. There's different filtration systems out there. I know Economic Ninja, he's got his, but we really like the Berkey filter. It's been great for us. So we talked about that on the live chat. I'm not going to go into that too much. What I did want to talk about is the well system. Now, wells are great options, especially for people who live out in the county that can have a well. Oftentimes, your municipality may not allow you to have it, just simply not feasible. For us, the well was a necessity because of how much water we're doing for our cattle. We have county water here, but the fact is that the cattle drink so much, and then we have to irrigate. Now we have an orchard that we're irrigating. Our irrigation bills are just going up and up and up. We're currently at about $160 a month in water, and that number is rising. Every month, everything that we add to our farm, to our homestead here, increases that water bill. And so for us, we just needed a well. We paid about $6,000 to have a well drilled. That well was drilled at 260 feet. At 200 feet, he measured 15 gallons per minute of water, and we had water. He had water earlier, sooner than that, but he measured it at 200 feet. He drilled the well to 260. We hung our pump at 240 feet. Now, well water is not the only option. Rainwater catchment, if you actually do the research on rainwater catchment can be a very good option as well. And the reason is because rainwater is already naturally purified. You're going to pick up some particles in the air, but as a general rule, it's a fairly healthy option, and there's some studies that suggest it's even more healthy than the healthiest of wells. Wells, about 20% of them are going to be contaminated with arsenic or radon, and so I don't know if you can filter those out. I would assume so, but I'm not a water expert by any means. We are getting ours tested right now, so we'll actually post the results when we get those tested and post it as a comment or something, and let y'all kind of see that and see what we're dealing with here before we put in our filtration system on the well. Hopefully, if we're lucky, we won't have to put one in. But right now, we've just got the well pump installed. And so the question was, how did we install the well pump? Well, the well pump came about because I didn't want to pay $2,500 to have somebody install the well pump. I didn't like the way that I knew that they were going to install it, because they didn't do some of the extra things that I really thought needed to be on there. There is a little bit of risk because they guarantee it. So if there's a problem with the electrical wiring down below, they'll pull it back out and fix it, and they have the machinery to do that, and it takes them about an hour. For me to do that, it's going to be an all-day thing, because I have to do it with my tractor, one bucket load at a time, getting 260 feet of well pump out, and it's going to be a full-day event if I have an electrical issue under the water. Those electrical issues, you can get small breaks in those lines, and the coding on those lines and short out your electrical wiring, and it not even be something that's noticeable to you prior to you sending the well pump down. So you know, right now I'm going to get the plug today, hopefully to hook this up to the generator and test our well water, and hopefully hopefully everything works right down there. So there was a little bit of a risk in that, but also because I wanted to learn how to do it, and I'd never hung a well pump before. The process is fairly straightforward, so if you're mechanically inclined, it was a fairly simple thing to set up. So I wanted the experience of doing it myself, and I didn't really feel like paying the money to do it. It was going to cost them roughly about $1,000 to have them hang the well pump. It just seemed ridiculous to me, and I thought I could do a better job. That remains to be seen. So anyways, so the well pump, the way that we installed this well pump is, first thing that we had to do is build a platform, right? So we haven't built the sidewalls to the platform or the top yet because we're waiting to see what kind of filtration system we need to put in there, and I'll make it just slightly bigger than that platform. Now you can see at the top of our well, actually, you know what, let me get to that here in just a second. Well pumps in the south and well pumps up north operate two very different ways. Well pumps in the north will have what's called a pitless adapter, and that's an adapter, and it actually connects the well to the water line below your frost line, so 3, 4, 5 feet down, whatever it is. The well pumps in the south don't need that, so we build well platforms or well houses, and then usually you just put like a heat bulb in there or something like that. That's not really that big a deal. For us, we have a small circuit board heater that we're going to be plugging in there that a friend of mine got me from Alabama Power. So it was one that they just throw out, I guess, when they have to cycle through them periodically to keep into compliance. And so it's just an old circuit heater. It keeps circuits warm and for something. I don't understand where exactly it goes, but it just connects into a 110 volt, and he gave me one there. Like I said, they just toss them there, and so it's about the price of a heat bulb, but it'll work a little bit better. So once we're done with our filtration system, we'll finish the well house out, insulate it, and install that heater and install the electric panel and everything and down there. We still have to dig the water line coming to the house though too. So back to hanging the well pump. You hang the well pump, we run the water line, and we ran our water line out. First off, we ran it 10 feet, and 10 feet from the well pump, and we put in a check valve there, or a backflow valve, right? So this keeps all the water in that line and all the pressure from coming back down and backspinning your pump, keeps your pump from wearing out. So you definitely want to have those in there. Now you have a foot valve in your pump, and so this is kind of a secondary valve to do a similar feature, but older pumps didn't have the foot valves, and so we went ahead and put it in because it was recommended by the installer. But whether you need it there or not remains to be seen. At 200 feet, every 200 feet, most installers recommend that you put one of those check valves in there to help with the water pressure and keep the water pressure off of the well pump. But obviously, those numbers might change a little bit as you start looking at larger pipes. If you're doing irrigation lines where you've got 3-4 inch pipes coming out of the well, ours is just a 1 inch or a 3/4. I can't remember. It's a pretty small pipe, not that big. I think it was a 1 inch. Anyways, so we've got a 1 inch pipe coming out of the well, and we used high density polyethylene pipe, or HDPE. This pipe, the reason that we used it is simply because it's all one solid piece. It's very easy and very simple to work with, and it was an easier install. There's a couple of downsides to it. One, I don't like the fittings quite as well at the end. Things that, like galvanized steel pipe or something like that connects better at the end. It is a little bit more stable when you're all the way down. The downside to it is that it's multiple pieces of pipe. They are more expensive. It's a little bit harder to install because you basically do it 10 feet at a time, and certainly harder to pull out when you have to pull the pump out. So that's part of the reason why we did the HDPE pipe. HDPE is what most installers are using nowadays. It's kind of the modern thing to do, but you do want to put a little bit more safety features into the water line. We'll talk about that here in just a second. So the next thing, we laid out our electric line, and we laid out our safety cable. Now the safety cable is not there to lower the well. That is there in case the well pump ever falls off the bottom of the well the pipe. That way that you can catch it and actually have a way. So once that's all done, we secure it around the top of the pipe and make sure that we always have a way of catching that well pump. When we go to pull the pipe, or when we have to pull the well pump out, because at some point in time we're going to have to, right? Whether we just change the pump or whether with the pump I didn't install it right and I have to pull it here in the next couple of weeks. Hopefully not. Fingers crossed. But you don't pull it with that cable. That cable is only there as a safety, so keep that in mind. When we pull the line out, that cable is just going to be sitting there on the side and basically spooling up on the side as we pull the pump out. Now, the next step, after we've got our electric line laid out, we've got our connectors done up there, so we want to shrink wrap our connectors. And so this is one of the issues that I wanted to make sure was done really, really well. So we did a couple things. One, we shrink wrapped them, right, as you're supposed to. Shrink wrapped all those connectors. And then each individual connector I electrical taped. And then I electrical taped all three of them together to get a really good solid feel in there. And then I actually electrical taped that entire thing to the plumbing pipe. Now, I should have used waterproof tape. I did not. I didn't have any around. I didn't want to go get some. It was already too late at that point in time. I'd already started the project, so hopefully the electrical tape will hold up under the water, especially with as much as we taped. There will be, I'm sure some will come off, but electrical tape is fairly decent at holding up underwater, but you know, it does tend to loosen up over time. But again, we've got the shrink wrap around there, so this was all a secondary anyways. It's kind of like caulking around your windows, right? If your caulking is what's keeping the water out, then the windows are installed incorrectly. Okay, so we do that connection. We want to make sure that that line is that those wires are not rubbing anywhere on the casing. Now, modern casings are done out of PVC. Old casings used to be done out of steel or concrete, and the steel or concrete casings would wear out the lines a lot faster with that pump moving around in there. So the taping was a lot more important. As it is now, it's not near as important, but it's very unforgiving, so it's worth taping. For ours, we taped ours every 5 feet going down the line. And it's just a quick 2 laps around with the tape. Now, we bought these individual spacers, and spacers you do not have to purchase, but the spacers are a wonderful option, just realize that you'll have to trim them to the proper well sizing. I think these ones are for 6, 5, or 4-inch well casings, and so you have to trim them down with 10 steps as you install it down to a 4-inch pipe. But these clamps work really well. They hold very tightly around the pipe, and they will keep your safety cable and your electrical line all in the places that they're supposed to be without letting anything rub in the wrong way. So we put one of those every 15 feet. Those are very cheap. Installers oftentimes don't do those. They usually just use electric tape, but they're very, very cheap. Like I said, I think they were like 50 cents each. Like, I mean, super, super cheap. Really not much reason not to do them. Okay, so we've got the safety ties in there. We've got everything tied all the way to the top. Then we come up to our wellhead, or our well seal. This is what I was talking about, that where in the South we use a seal instead of a pitless adapter. So a pitless adapter would be a special adapter that you'll have to use, like I said, below your frost line. In the South, you come straight out of the top of the wellhead. There's no sense using a pitless adapter here. It's absolutely not needed. You can overkill it and do it, but there's absolutely no need for it. We come out of the top of the well. And this is where I'm going to stop this video. I'm going to do a part 2 to this video showing you guys how to connect everything in the filtration system when we get to that point. But I wanted to get this section out to you. So once we come out of the top of the well, there's basically three holes there at the top of the well. And we have to have a through nipple because the weight of the well is going to be on that little through nipple that comes out, and where the water basically connects into the top of the wellhead, and all the way to the well is basically held up on that. Now, when you put those spacers in the line, there's actually quite a bit of friction in the well, so there's really not that much force on that. It's enough force that actually I could hold the well pump over the hole, and if I had let go, it wouldn't have probably gone down at all, or it would have just gone down very, very slowly. So now, obviously, I wasn't going to do that. It's a big risk, and it wouldn't be worth doing. But the fact is that it's not. There's a ton of friction inside that line when you put those little spacers on there, and so it's not near as important, or doesn't have near as much force on it. So it's another benefit of those spacers. Putting the well seal on the pump. You've got that little rubber gasket around there. That rubber gasket will expand out when you tighten the bolts. You can tighten those down, but you don't need to just tighten the death out of them. All you're really trying to do is to make sure that there's no excess rainwater or any other critters or anything getting in there. So we just hand tighten them, and then maybe do a quarter turn with a wrench or something. Doesn't need to be much. That cap is pretty well sealed in there anyways. Now there's two other holes at the top. One of those holes is for your safety line and your electrical wire to come out of. The other hole is for your breather valve to come out of. So this way, not a breather valve. I'm sorry. It is a breather valve, and this other one will allow you to create a vacuum from happening inside the well casing. So this is one of the issues that as that pump starts cycling in there, it can create a vacuum inside there and cause you some issues with water flow and overcycling your well pump. And so you want a little bit of a vacuum in there, or you want to have a little bit of air coming in there so that you can keep that vacuum effect from happening. So that's what the other line is for. Okay, so here's the well pump. We go and you can see it's a two-piece that was connected right there. All those nuts were secured with Loctite. We've got a wire protector that comes up there. Now underneath here we've got our connections for the high density polyethylene pipe, and then we've just taped all that together. That's just to hold the wire in place. I don't want the wire rubbing. This is a torque arrestor here at the end, and that'll expand. You'll slide this end down, the bulb will expand out, and that'll take up, it keeps it from rattling around too much inside the pipe. We taped this here. This is where our connection was at, where our splice connection was at. So we wanted that to be really well protected. So that's all shrink wrapped and then individually taped, and then I taped over the top of it to keep it next to the wire. Come up about 10 feet. We have our backflow preventer there. So that keeps the pressure from all the water in the line from backspinning the pump and wearing the pump out prematurely. And right here we have the well top. So actually, I'm sorry, it's 230 feet. Our well's at 260. We have 10 feet before the backflow preventer there, and then we hit water at 200 feet, so we're hanging the well at 240. Now you can see here, this is your well seal at the top. If you live in a colder climate, you'll use a pitless adapter instead, but we live in a warm enough climate that we can use a well seal. You can see we've got all high density polyethylene. This is how everything is connected down at the bottom end. We may end up putting another backflow preventer here depending, but I don't think we'll need it. Come out of the wellhead here. We've got both our lines coming out there. I tied this off as a safety cable in case we lose our pump while we're hanging our pump. This is a breather valve here. Once we get it in, we'll tighten these nuts down, which will cause this gasket to expand out and lock it all in. Up here, you'll have the main flow. This comes out towards the house. And then this one here, this will have a pressure release valve in case we get a freeze in the line or something. It'll blow this out the top instead of cracking our line down in the well house. So there's some added things that we do. Those clips will be added as we install the well. About every 15 feet we'll hang one of those clips in there. But all of this stuff is done to kind of protect the well so that we don't have to pull the well. This line you can buy from well supply companies. We bought the approved one from a well supply company because I didn't want to risk it, but you can certainly use other things. Stainless steel cable works really well if you want to spend the money on it, but 260 feet of stainless steel cable can get pretty pricey. So anyways, that's what that looks like there. Size to 6-inch wells, you'll have more holes. You'll have the opportunity to potentially run another line down the side and have maybe one on a windmill and one on a traditional well pump. However you want to do it. I wish we had done that. I wish we had done a 6-inch well. We did not, and that was a big mistake. We should have done a 6-inch well. I just didn't catch it in time and didn't put it together that I needed to do that. So I would have loved to have run 2 lines down there and had be able to plug one up on a windmill into a cistern to irrigate with. That would have been perfect. So anyways, guys, like I said, there's going to be several parts of this video. I wanted to get this part out to you. I'm sorry we did not have any videos this weekend. So Saturday, Saturday we were doing farm work. Sunday we did not have the live chat because Madeline and I were in a SO class, so we were learning how to be safety officers for IDPA, so that way we can be certified as safety officers for it. So As you guys know, we've been doing some IDPA competitions lately and getting more and more into it, so we wanted to get the SL certification. So that's why we weren't able to do the live chat yesterday. We will have a live chat next week. We'll have videos out all week. So thanks so much for watching this. I know this is going to come out just a little bit late this morning, but we will see you all tomorrow morning at 6:30. Thanks.